Christian looked at Alex, who was leaning over his computer, and smiled, calling him. "Alex, let's go to lunch. Everyone went on break." "Or are you trying to impress Mr. Eisenberger? Do you think our boss will give you a bonus for this?" Alex did not react to Christian's words. He was completely absorbed in his work, and only came to his senses when Christian hit him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, are you on hunger strike?" "What?" exclaimed Alex, not understanding anything. "Are you going to lunch?" Christian repeated it with a laugh. "Listen, people like you used to be called bookworms, and you seem to be a computer worm." "Is that like a virus?" Alex smiled, then stood up and enjoyed stretching. "Oh, I'm so stiff." "You need a woman," said Christian, heading out of the office with his friend. "She would give you a massage, and wouldn't let you work." "I already had a woman," Alex said, waving his hand. "I'm fed up with that. I don't want to think about it anymore." The friends sat down at a table in a cozy cafe and ordered the meal. "Let's talk about you instead," Alex said to Christian. "I heard you're going on vacation soon. Have you decided where to go?" "Oh," Christian frowned. "Nothing depends on me in this case. Kelly decided long ago that we would all go to her mother's village. There's nature, a river, and all that. She promised we'd go fishing." "Great!" exclaimed Alex. "You'll rest for sure." "Oh, come on. You just don't know my mother-in-law. She always needs something fixed. The basement prepared for winter or the roof covered. There won't be time for fishing, that's for sure. It's a deadly bore. I even envy you sometimes. You are your own boss. You can relax however you want. Go where you want." "It's all relative, Christian," Alex said bitterly. "You know how I suffered with Delia, and I was glad when I divorced her. But now, I don't want to go home. No one is waiting for me there now. No one needs me. I'm 40 years old, and I have no family or children." Christian didn't know what to say to his friend. He knew his story and always felt sorry for the kind, not malicious man. Alex had once been married, but Delia couldn't find common ground with his mother. They lived together, and Delia hated it more than anything. "Let's leave her," she often said to her husband. "Honestly, I can't live like this anymore." "Delia, you don't understand," Alex pleaded with his wife. "Mum is sick. She's been suffering from cancer for many years now. It's not known how much time she has left. I can't leave her, abandon her, at this moment. How do you imagine that?" "You can visit her every day," Delia insisted, "but she needs to be under constant observation 24/7. Delia, pull yourself together. Imagine if your mother was sick. Would you leave her?" "My mummy isn't sick, and she's the best person in the world. Kind, caring, and your mother is a real snake. How much blood she drank from me over the years. You don't want to take care of her for some reason, but you're making me. I even resigned from my job because of this." "Delia, you were a nanny at a daycare. What was the point of your job? I make a lot more money, and I'm taking care of you just fine. Please endure this, I'm begging you." Delia just snorted in response, and the scandals in the house continued. Alex's mother, suffering from pain, behaved like a capricious child and constantly complained to him about Delia. And Delia didn't give the poor woman an inch, didn't want to sympathize with her at all. They both tormented Alex because he had to tear himself apart between them, and there was no way out of it. "Oh, son, son," his mother cried, "how can I leave you alone? Delia doesn't love you at all. She only cares about herself. You and I don't matter to her at all. I can't ask her to buy me milk," and heard so many curses that I regretted asking. "I would have gone myself, but I can't." Alex comforted his mother as best he could, and then ran to the pharmacy or store to buy her what she needed. He often did this, even in the middle of the night, if his mother suddenly wanted something special. 3 years went by like this, and the day came when Alex was truly alone. Even at the funeral, Delia showed no sympathy or support. In the evening, when everyone left, she gathered her things and announced, "I'm leaving." where are you going? Alex looked at her with a tired expression. To my mum. I can't look at you. You'll stay Mummy's little boy, just like you were. But I don't care. That's not my problem anymore. I need to think about how to live and what to do. I don't understand you, Alex said, shaking his head. How can you say such a thing? She was my mother. She gave birth to me and brought me up. Why should I have abandoned? For what reason? For me. You married me, so you had to take care of me first. Instead, all the two of us did was take care of your mother. I'm tired of you and your whole rotten family life, Delia replied haughtily. Alex opened the door tiredly. Go. I won't hold you back. I'll file for divorce myself. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, just make sure you don't regret it. She left, slamming the door, and waited for 2 months for him to crawl back to her on his knees and apologize. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Delia went to Alex's house herself. Well, haven't you thought about making up with me? Instead of answering, Alex handed her the divorce papers. So, that's how it is, Delia exclaimed. I'll never forgive you. Never. She shouted something else, but Alex had already closed the door and wasn't listening. Since then, he has been living alone, and Christian sincerely believed it was better than his married life. And suddenly, to his surprise, it turns out that Alex misses his family life. Then get married again, he advised his friend. There are plenty of women in the world. It can't be that one of them won't be yours. Well, maybe one of them will, Alex agreed, smiling. And in the evening after finishing work, he went to the parking lot and pressed the button on his key. A beautiful car immediately winked at him with slanting eyes, and Alex couldn't help but smile. He had bought it just 4 months ago and was still delighted with his purchase, like a boy. He pulled out of the parking lot and was already approaching his house when he saw a young girl trying to catch a ride. Without hesitation, Alex drove up to her and rolled down the passenger window. Where can I take you? He asked the stranger, noting to himself that she was beautiful and young. To White Daisy, she said. Get in, Alex nodded. My neighbourhood is near yours, so you could say we're going the same way. The girl flashed her even teeth and quickly sat down in the passenger seat next to Alex. But as soon as he began to move, she reached out and touched him. I don't have any money, but I can pay you back in another way. I'll do everything so great that you want to pay me yourself. Hey, slow down, beauty, Alex asked, removing her hand. Then he parked and asked, What's your name? Coco, answered the girl and smiled languidly. Come on, that can't be true. Well, I'm telling you the truth. My name is Coco. Okay, let it be. How old are you? 19. You're lying again, Alex sighed. What difference does it make to you? The girl exclaimed. Are you a vice cop? Or do you not have enough money to pay me? Think about it. If I leave right now, you'll regret it. I know how to give a man real pleasure. You'll like it. We'll have a great time together. Do your parents know what you're doing? That's it. I've had enough of you. I wanted to have fun with you, not listen to stupid lectures. Why don't you go home, Coco? Or whatever your name is. At least give me a lighter, snorted the girl. I don't smoke and I don't recommend it to you. Listen, girl, I'm old enough to be your father, so I can give you some advice. But Coco interrupted him, saying, Do you know how many guys like you I've had? Some were old enough to be my grandfather, let alone my father. And I didn't listen to any of them, and I won't listen to you either. Saying this, she jumped out of the car and walked away without looking back once. Alex shrugged and drove home, quickly forgetting about the encounter. And a month later he met Phoebe, a beautiful and intelligent woman who immediately filled his thoughts. I don't understand why men were so blind, Alex wondered, hugging and kissing Phoebe. You're just outstanding. Oh, Alex, my dear, life is such a complicated thing. And of course I have met men before, but they all turned out to be characters not in my story. I had even begun to think that I would never meet someone like you. Their relationship developed rapidly, and soon Alex proposed to Phoebe. Why are you in such a hurry? She asked him. I just want to be happy, he said gently. I'm 40, you're 34. We can easily become parents. At least, I really want to. Alex, I need to tell you something. I was afraid to admit it, but I have a daughter. She's already grown up. She's 17. Yes, don't be surprised. I gave birth to her very early. You see, I fell in love with a married man and couldn't refuse him, or resist him, so I got pregnant. Of course, when he found out, he immediately rejected me. But I still gave birth to Kate. She's a kind girl, smart and beautiful. She's into music and is always learning something. I have high hopes for her. Oh dear, Alex affectionately kissed Phoebe. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Why did you think I would be against it? On the contrary, it will be just wonderful, because we will be a real family. Phoebe laughed. Then I'll introduce you tomorrow. Come over to our house. We'll have dinner together. That's where you'll meet. In the evening, Alex came to Phoebe's house with gifts and 2 bouquets and rang the doorbell. He smiled, thinking about how wonderful their time together would be. But as the door opened, Alex's smile immediately disappeared. There was Coco, the same girl whom he had wanted to get home one. What are you doing here? She hissed, recognizing him right away. Why have you come here? Who invited you? Your mother, Coco, or Kate, to be exact, Alex replied. Get out of here and never come back, otherwise it will be worse. Alex wanted to respond, but Phoebe appeared behind Kate. Well, I see you've already met, she asked. Yes, Alex nodded, and a long time ago. What do you mean? Phoebe asked. I'll explain it to you, Mum, Kate said quickly. Once, between classes, I went to a cafe to have a snack. There was this guy, your Alex. Mum, he had his eye on me and even dragged me into a closet, but I managed to escape. Mum, how can you trust such a person? Phoebe was shocked. She didn't want to go into the situation anymore and pointed to the door, saying, Leave and never come back here. Forget that we exist. Phoebe, your daughter is a real liar. Don't believe her. Alex spoke quietly. She got into my car herself and offered herself. So you two have already met each other. Have you had something between you? Phoebe exclaimed. How can you do that to a girl who's only 17? Phoebe, we had nothing, and we couldn't have had anything. Alex continued to defend himself, but no one was listening to him anymore. Phoebe left the hallway with crying and went to her bedroom. As for Kate, she smiled cheerfully, blew Alex an air kiss and slammed the door in front of him. 6 months passed, and Alex and Phoebe never saw each other again. The man became even more convinced that he would never meet the woman who would bring him true happiness. One morning, the boss gathered the whole team and announced that everyone was invited to his son's wedding. Wow, Frank is getting married. Congratulations. Everyone cheered. He is a wonderful son. Such a smart, literate, well-bred, polite. Let him be happy. We sincerely wish him that. And who's the bride? A nice girl. She is very young, naive and enthusiastic. Mr. Ensenberger smiled. But she loves my son very much, and that's the most important thing for me. When is the wedding? Alex asked. This Saturday. The date is symbolic. It coincides with the anniversary of my wedding to Robin. So, we are happy on all sides. Please don't be late, my friends. Of course, come as couples. I will be overjoyed to see everyone. Alex, like everyone else, was about to arrive at their restaurant, but Mr. Ensenberger called him and asked for help. Alex, you don't have a lady with you, so no one will be angry with you. Please come early. The driver who was supposed to drive the bride broke his leg and is now in hospital, so we thought we would pick up the bride together and then go straight to the registration." "Okay, no problem," Alex agreed. At the appointed time, he arrived at the boss's place and put him and his wife Robin in the car. Mr. Ensenberger gave the address, and Alex looked at him in surprise. "What did you say? Repeat, please." "Don't you know the city well?" Robin laughed. "Turn on the navigator, and let's go already." Alex obediently drove onto the road, but he was only thinking about one thing. Phoebe and her daughter lived at that address that Mr. Ensenberger gave. Is Kate going to marry Mr. Ensenberger's son? But how is that possible? Frank is a quiet and smart young man. He has studied abroad. His father has great hopes for him and is preparing to hand over the company to him. And Kate, she has already shown herself to Mr. Ensenberger and his wife as a naive and inexperienced girl. They believed her, but Kate has unlikely changed and, of course, will spoil the guy's life. Like Delia once ruined his own life. Alex also got married at one time to such a naive girl, and only a couple of years after the wedding, he found out that she had gotten rid of her pregnancy several times before meeting him. That's why she couldn't give birth to the baby he wanted so much. She was unable to have any children at all, and every day with her was a real torment for Alex. And now Frank could fall into the same trap. "What's wrong with you, Alex?" Mr. Ensenberger asked. "It's such an important day, and you're frowning." "Mr. Ensenberger, what's the name of Frank's bride?" Alex asked instead of answering the question. "Kate, why?" "And her mother's name is Phoebe, right?" "Yes, a very nice, pleasant woman." Alex pulled over to the side of the road and stopped. "What happened?" Mr. Ensenberger asked in surprise. Alex's story didn't take long, but when he finished speaking, an oppressive silence hung in the car. Robin sobbed. "Oh, Ben, I told you this girl was no good and you didn't believe me." "I'm sorry, Mr. Ensenberger," Alex said, "but I could not help warning you. What you do with this information is up to you, but if I had kept quiet and something went wrong in Frank's fate, I would never forgive myself." "You did the right thing, Alex." Mr. Ensenberger touched his hand. "Now, let's go there. And if it's her, just nod to me." Kate, dressed in a beautiful wedding dress, bought for her by the groom's parents, shone as she handed out smiles left and right. Seeing Frank's parents, she hurried towards them, but suddenly stopped so abruptly, as if she had hit an invisible wall. It was Alex in front of her. The girl helplessly turned around, looking for support from her mother, who stood nearby, but she, too, did not take her eyes off Alex. Now Mr. Ensenberger didn't need any explanations. At that moment, the groom himself drove up to the bride's house. He got out of the car and headed towards his bride, but Mr. Ensenberger intercepted him and took him aside. They talked briskly about something for 5 minutes, and all this time, Kate didn't take her hateful eyes off Alex. Finally, Frank approached his bride. "Is it true what I have just heard?" Frank asked. "Frank," Kate muttered, "don't believe him, please." "So I can trust you?" asked the groom. She couldn't take it and looked away, looking back at Alex again. "I hate you!" she screamed at him in anger. "I hate you!" And then she ran away. Her mother ran after her, and Mr. Ensenberger turned to the guests, who had witnessed the ugly scene. "The wedding is cancelled," he said, "but we're all waiting for you at the restaurant. Today is the anniversary of our wedding with Robin. Please share our joy with us." Alex was upset and biting his lips, but Frank approached him and hugged him. "Don't be so nervous, and thank you, Alex. You know, everything happened so fast for us that I didn't even have time to realize it. She did everything to hook me, and I was blind." "It's okay, Frank. Everything will be fine for you eventually," Alex said. And a few days later, when Alex was walking to his entrance, he was attacked and got severely beaten. The last thing he remembered was someone's angry words. "It's revenge for Kate. Got it? Alex woke up in the hospital, and the nurse, leaning over him, smiled at him and asked, "How do you feel?" "Everything hurts." "Don't worry, we'll give you a shot and you'll feel better. Just tell me how I can reach your wife." "My wife? I don't have a wife. I have no one. I'm alone." "Wow." The nurse shook her head. "What's wrong with me?" asked Alex. "You were found beaten in the street. A little more, and that's it. But now you will live happily ever after, and I will dance at your wedding," said the nurse, winking at Alex. Alex smiled. "What's your name?" "My name is Joan." "I'm going to take you up on that, Joan." A year later, Joan danced with Alex at their wedding. Several years passed. Joan and Alex raised 2 charming kids and were delighted. They were also friends with Mr. Ensenberger and his family. Recently, Frank married a nice girl and was preparing to become a father. Frank thanked Alex more than once for helping him avoid a mistake. "Can you imagine, Alex, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have met Maggie. By the way, did they find those who beat you up?" "No, Frank," Alex sighed. He often remembered what the guy said to him when he fell to the ground, and just protected his head from terrible blows. It's revenge for Kate. But he didn't tell anyone about it, and he tried to forget it himself. Once, Joan and Alex invited friends to spend time together, and while they were chatting, Joan told them about a patient named Phoebe who had come to them. Can you imagine her own daughter, Kate, beating her up with her partner? And sometimes she came to the hospital with a scandal. She always demanded money from her mother. We had to call the police. This little wretch, Kate, is so young, but she's already hit rock bottom. It seems that she and her partner are now facing a real sentence. Her mother is defending her, saying she's not guilty, and her boyfriend persuaded her. We're all just in shock, and this Phoebe still stands her ground. I feel so sorry for her. Alex, Mr. Weisenberger, and his wife exchanged glances and remained silent, and Frank hugged his wife tighter and smiled at her. Then Alex was the first to break the silence. A man's fate is in his hands, and everyone chooses who and with whom to be.